How you become athlete by accident?
I trained myself for a year. I was still living at home at the time, and I trained like underneath my mum's deck, like just with very minimal gear, taught myself everything based off YouTube videos. When the gym opened, I kind of started doing CrossFit. And then the next year I qualified like 5th in the country, and then I won overall to qualify for the CrossFit Games. I came first in Australia and was like Pacific region or whatever.
Kara Saunders is one of Australia's most accomplished CrossFit athletes and a global icon of functional fitness. Kara has competed in the CrossFit Games 11 times, earning multiple top 5 finishers, including 2nd place worldwide. She shifted her focus from pure competition to building a sustainable, health-centered lifestyle as a mother of 2, entrepreneur and nutrition coach. She is the founder of Heaps Good Nutrition, a platform dedicated to helping people eat and live better. In this episode, we learn many things most people don't know about Kara, such as how she became a top athlete by accident and how she learned to do muscle-ups from YouTube.
What did you actually eat when you were at the highest of the CrossFit career? Like, what did your nutrition look like?
All I did was increase my, more whole foods. Like, I would eat a little bit more sourdough. I'd have a little bit of even just like dried fruit. I was never really a fan of eating like synthetic food. It's always just been like vegetables, meat, like fat. I add some avocado. I cook in coconut oil or ghee. I eat like as basic, I guess, as it can be.
What does your menu look like at home for you and your kids as well?
They do eat a lot of Chief bars. Everyone like rolls their eyes like, oh, that's that athlete's daughter who's eating protein bars. I feed my kids protein. Like, why is that weird? I'm just trying to like balance their blood sugar and developing as they should.
What was the most extreme thing you've done in regards to either training, nutrition or performance that you would never do now?
I guess the silliest thing that I did was...
Welcome to Chief Life, the podcast that cuts the crap with science-backed insights on health, nutrition and performance. Get expert advice, actionable tips and everything you need to take control of your health and live your best life. Let's get started.
Kara Saunders, previously known as Kara Webb, welcome to the Chief Life podcast.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you on finally. We've been planning this for like 5 months, right?
Yeah, it's been a while. Trying to sync up schedules. Just out there living life, being busy.
Yeah, you're a busy woman. Well, when I first met you, you were even busier. You were Kara Webb, this super famous athlete in the CrossFit world. You probably don't remember me because I was just nobody starting with Chief bars and you were a huge celebrity. I was at every CrossFit Games with Chief. And back then, all you top girls used to get slammed for being too jacked, too extreme, too unhealthy. Some of you were accused of being on steroids, not you personally, but just in general. And to be honest, in fact, many female athletes are unhealthy. But I invited you to the Chief Life podcast today because to me, you are a picture of health. And despite all the gossip, you also proved it to the rest of the world by conceiving while you were still training for CrossFit and you had a healthy little daughter, Scotty. Mm-hmm. So you are a picture of health and no one can deny it. And this is why you're here.
Yes.
Thanks for making the time. I want to ask you all the questions because this is super interesting. But before we get to all the healthy stuff, I actually want to ask you, when you look back at CrossFit and your training and performance, what was the most extreme thing you've done in regards to either training, nutrition or performance that you would never do now?
You know what's funny is you're right. Like, and when you say, I'm a picture of health, I've always really prided myself on the fact that I've always prioritized health and never falling into, like trends or anything like that. And so I guess what people would typically think would be a most extreme, crazy thing is kind of the opposite of what maybe some people have done, in that I would say that the silliest thing that I did was focus a little bit or not do my due diligence on what I needed in the way of performance nutrition. And I went into, I would say I competed in about 4 CrossFit Games without specifically tracking my hydration or my carbohydrate intake. So yeah, it's kind of like, it's not necessarily like I did something super, super wild or anything like that, but kind of when you think about it as far as a professional athlete, you think about in that time. So say 2012, 13, 14, 15, I would say then I was tracking my I still didn't track my carbs until like 2017. So it was like 5 years that I went without tracking my carbohydrates. Or just any of my actual like quantity of nutrition in general. I was kind of just eating well and, but even hydration. And I think that, what it really came into light when I suffered from heat injury in 2015. And I realized that like what I thought was enough kind of just wasn't, and I needed to know more. And as for a professional athlete, you'd be like, that's just crazy. And now like when I'm supporting anyone who's doing any kind of physical activity or myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like the first thing that you would do.
It is, but it's crazy. So, okay, hang on. So you were literally the top CrossFit athlete in the world, and you didn't have any dietitian or nutritionist working with you?
No,
you just did everything by yourself?
Yeah,
Is it normal or is it just you? Was everyone like that?
Look, I think in the early days, there were only maybe a handful of people who were, say like the early CrossFit, there were probably only a handful of people who were working with anyone, maybe a dietitian or something like that on the side. But then a lot didn't come through till, I'm going to say maybe closer to like 2014, because I remember, like more nutrition coaches sort of came into the space and started working with a couple of athletes. And that's when you saw a lot of the female athletes start to really like improve and really start to pick up, was when they started to actually track the quantity of the food that they were eating. Because, I was always eating really good food, and I was like, I'm eating really great food. I eat well. I'm very healthy. But at that point in time, everything I'd studied and everything I had known had been very focused around like holistic nutrition and not sports nutrition. And so it wasn't really fully on my radar, and I became an athlete by accident. So I was kind of just like, I'll just train really hard. And, like we train stupid too. I'll just train really hard, eat as much food as I feel like I need, sleep, and wake up and do it again. It was like that home brand.
Well, God, this is so, like, I've never had this. So how you become athlete by accident? Like, how did you come around being a CrossFitter, actually? What did you do before? I don't know this about you.
Yeah, so I was only training in a regular, like in a normal gym. And I had joined that gym because I think I joined there when I was about, I'm going to say 19. I had been like going out, turn 18, go out, partying, all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of hit a point where I think after like a year, I just felt like crap. And I was like, I just feel gross. I feel sloppy. I feel lethargic. I felt my mood start to decline. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I just went and joined a gym. And then in that gym, I got a personal trainer to help me out because I just didn't know what I was doing, just once a week to sort of help me. Yeah, so I wasn't just kind of doing random things. And then he found CrossFit and was like, I think you'll really like this because you sort of, I had played a lot of sport as a kid. So I really liked the kind of sessions he did that were really out of the box rather than just like sit on a weight machine. And then, we did it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, like, and so fun and so different. And it just like, it stimulated a different part of my brain. And then, I trained myself for a year at home. I was still living at home at the time, and I trained like underneath my mum's deck, like just with very minimal gear, taught myself everything based off YouTube videos. And then, when the gym opened, I kind of started doing CrossFit, and I loved it so much. I was so consistent that I got really good really fast because I just wanted to be there so bad, I think. So that's why I joined that gym 2011, 2012, I qualified, 2011, a couple of months later, I qualified for like what's like the regionals or the semifinals, so like the Torian Pro type of level. But I had no idea what I was doing and didn't do very well. And then the next year, I qualified like 5th in the country, and then I won overall to qualify for the CrossFit Games. I came first in Australia, and it was like the Pacific region or whatever. And so that's why I always say it was very accidental. I was just doing what I loved, and I did it as best I could, and I just kind of got good at it. So
that's crazy. Sorry, teaching yourself from YouTube. Like, could you do, before you started this, could you do all the muscle ups and the handstand walks and all that, or did you learn?
No. I grew up a swimmer in primary school, and that was just because my mum was always working and the pool was like right across the road from my house, and so swimming was kind of just the sport that I did. And so I swam before school every morning. So I had a good like engine, like I had a really good tank, and I was fast, but I was short, unfortunately. But that's all I had ever done. And then when I got to high school, I just didn't do anything. I didn't do any physical activity. I didn't play any sport anymore. And like my my home life and everything was just hard, and I think I kind of just really went inward and did nothing. And then it wasn't until like 19 I started just working out. So I couldn't do anything. I taught myself, you know, muscle ups. I taught myself from, I bought a set of rings and hung them from the deck, and I just started doing pull-ups on them and just built the strength. And I just, you know, handstand push-ups, I kicked up against the concrete wall and of the house, and I just slowly chipped away at it, and yeah, learned
That's
it over time.
absolutely wild. I love this. I don't think many people know this. That's crazy. Good on you. Like, that's incredible. And here I go trying to learn to do a few muscle, not even muscle ups, pull ups, and I still can't do them. But anyway, that's a crazy story. So obviously, CrossFit is a very tough sport because you have to have all the agility, the gymnastic skills, but you also have to be able to lift heavy weights. And as a result, all you girls look very muscular. And I know that back in the day, before people got used to it, you were always criticized for being too jacked and too masculine and all that. Have you personally experienced it, and has it affected you, or how did you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I experienced that my whole entire life because I was always naturally muscular. Like from when I was really little, you could see even photos of me swimming as a kid, and you think about like the nature of swimming, and I had like really big biceps. Like I would hold my medals and I would have big biceps. Like I've always been muscular, and I always thought that was a curse, and it wasn't until I did CrossFit that I realized it was a gift and it had a purpose, and that not everybody was given that gift. So I went through my whole entire, you know, especially my adolescence, kind of thinking or like resenting the fact that I was different, you know, and having people point out, you know, why are you more muscular than the boys, you know, and at that point I didn't really understand or know what my muscles could do. And so it was really always linked to just how I looked. And then, you know, as a teenage girl, that's super hard, especially when you stand out. And then I guess I found CrossFit, and yeah, I was so hard focused on what I was doing that how I looked just wasn't even on my radar, because I was just really happy for once doing something that was really fulfilling in a different way. And you know, like when you work out, you're just constantly flooding yourself with endorphins. So I just felt so great. And then I realized, oh, I'm actually like pretty good. I'm pretty good at these things. I'm really strong and all these things. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. But yeah, then you go into the public eye and everyone has their opinion. And CrossFit girls and CrossFitters in general, it was a very different methodology in the way of training. You know, we know endurance sports and we knew weightlifting, and then CrossFit was very combination. We had gymnastics, and then we have these heavy lifts and big compounding movements that developed and shaped everyone's bodies in a particular way. And I feel like people just weren't used to seeing that. And so instantly they, for one, say, or, you know, it's steroids or whatever. I was forever getting steroid comments. They bothered me so much more when I was younger. It's such like water off a duck's back now. Like I'm like, whatever, man. It's just, I guess you get a little bit older and wiser and realize that it's nothing to do with you why people say things.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it was always, people always commenting, always saying things, must be steroids, must be this and that. And I feel like I only really got any credibility when I had my babies, and you could see like, I still look the same, and I'm like, well, I'm clearly not using any steroids when I am breastfeeding for 2 years, you know, like I'm
even getting pregnant.
Getting pregnant, like all of these things. I'm like, you can see my body, and now like you can see my children, you can see my daughter, and she has the exact same build. Like she has these muscly little legs. She's so strong. Like you can see, I'm like, do you get it now? Like, do you understand? But it's so bizarre. Like I think, yeah, like I said, it did bother me at the start, and it's funny, like when I was in peak competition, I always stood out, you know, even when I walk through the shops, I always stand out. People look at me, make comment, whisper, all these kind of things, mainly women, funnily enough. And then when I had my babies, and your body changes a little bit for a period of time, you're a bit softer and whatever, as you should be. And then I would notice that people didn't look at me differently anymore. I was like, oh, it's like, people aren't like looking at me like I stand out because I'm not like so jacked and swollen all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is weird. I'm like, oh, I kind of like that I'm a little bit different. You know, I like that I kind of stood out. So yeah, it's just taken time to understand. And then I guess now in my like mid 30s, I understand like so much more about the health side of things when it comes to like having more muscle mass. And, you know, I'm in a good relationship and I'm healthy and happy. So I'm like, it's just not like it's not a thing for me.
100%.
Except for that normal clothes aren't cut for me. It's always
Yeah,
hard.
but there's a lot of clothes that definitely probably fit because the environment has changed so much. I just wanted to say, you girls, like you original CrossFit girls, you are the pioneers of the change in the perception of female body, because all of a sudden the strong is the new skinny. It's not fashionable to look like twig anymore. All the girls, I see so many girls in my gym lifting really heavy weights, trying to look like you, trying to have the muscly legs, because that's what's in fashion, and it's actually healthier. And look at all the famous like doctors and podcasters talking about put on muscle, eat more protein. So I think you were like the pioneers of like a big actually change in the perception of female body in the eyes of females, because as you said, first ones to criticize you for women. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about it, because nowadays, compared to say when I grew up, like when I was younger, nowadays I'll walk down the street and there'll be random women that go, "Oh my gosh, I love your legs," you know? And I'm like, "Wait, what? Are you talking to me?" You know, like it still takes a little bit for me to adjust to, but yeah, it's funny. It's been definitely a massive transition, obviously, because I've been around for a very long time, but it's very refreshing, and I'm very relieved that now, raising a young daughter myself, I just know that hopefully she won't have to go through that. Obviously things flip back around, but at least she's got me to, I've already experienced all of that, to explain that to her and to understand like, hey, you're actually blessed. Like you have something that isn't given to everybody. So, you know, think of it as like let it puff you up, rather than bring you down.
No, 100%. I definitely agree. And it's so much healthier to be this way rather than starving yourself and be tired all the time. Yeah. Anyway, just back to your professional career. You know, as much as healthy you were and you were eating healthily, training for CrossFit is extremely grueling. And I was just wondering, have you experienced any of the issues that lots of female athletes experience, like issues with your menstrual cycle or any hormonal issues or anything like that? Anything that you think could have impacted your health long term?
You know what I think? I was very lucky in that my background was focused in more like holistic nutrition. And so I think my focus, like I said, I didn't understand sports nutrition at all. But what I did understand is hormonal health. And I had an experience when I was in my early 20s where I got like a contraceptive rod in my arm, and just trying to do the right thing, didn't really know anything about it. Yeah. And it turned me inside out. I felt like a mess. I got it out a week later. It took 6 months for my cycle to return. I'd never had this issue before. And I remember talking to my GP, and she had said to me, like, you know, your pituitary gland's been affected, your progesterone is like on the floor, like it almost doesn't exist now after 1 week of something. And she said to me, like, you just need to be really careful moving forward, like for the rest of your life, like, and treat your hormones with care, and understand that, like, if you want to have babies later on and all these kind of things, you know, it's probably best to not tamper with them. And I'm so grateful for that experience, because I took that seriously forever, and I never interfered with my hormones in any way ever again. And I nurtured them forever and ever. And I guess that's something that I did pretty crazy compared to most people, is I have always put my long-term health and my hormonal health before my performance. And potentially to my detriment as an athlete, maybe not, I don't know, like we'll never know. I didn't do it a different way, right? So I'm lucky in that sense that I always focused on that. So my cycle was great, and my husband will say to me, I had like potentially the worst luck he could ever imagine with where my cycle would fall in competition in all my peak years. I'm like, oh, that year, like, it was just ridiculous how unlucky it was it would fall. Like, you know, you think you've got the CrossFit Games for 4 days at this time, and it's like always right in my luteal phase or something, and I'm just like, why? The only time I ever had like a slight issue, there were 2 years, and I'm going to say it was right in the peak, and I would probably say I was potentially at my leanest. I don't know if that was a thing or not. It didn't seem to be an issue. So 2017 and 2018, for 2 months, right in the peak of the game. So the games month and maybe the month before, I missed a cycle. That was the only time that had ever happened in my life, was those 2 years. But then funnily enough, and I think a lot of it was just like stress. There was a lot of I was more affected by travel than I was
Yeah.
by anything else. And so I had started getting to the games, like traveling earlier, traveling more. I had
Yeah.
a lot of other stress going on in my life. There are a lot of other factors that maybe left me a little bit more sensitive.
Yeah.
But then it didn't change anything. And as soon as I would finish the games, I would be back to normal. And what's funny is in 2018 that happened to me. So I missed two months. And then a week, like the games ended 2018. And then in that week after, I had this massive release because I'd really stretched myself for that games. And I was so relieved. I'd had a lot of life stuff going on. And I just let go of all this stress. And we went on holidays. And I knew instantly, I was like, I know I've ovulated. I'm like, I can tell. And I knew that I hadn't ovulated in that time. And I got pregnant that week after the games with my daughter. And so for me, it was like as soon as I let go of all of the stress,
Yeah.
right after, my body knew that it was safe. Like, you know, and our body does work in that safety mechanism. It's not going to prioritize reproduction when I'm working incredibly hard and super stressed, right? So as soon as I let that go, it was good. And that was the only time. And then I've never had an issue since, like any other time. Yep.
Okay, so tell us, because this is definitely like you were training hard and you were competing and you were stressed. So this would have a lot to do with your genetics, but also with your nutrition. What did you actually eat when you were at the highest of the CrossFit career? Like what did your nutrition look like? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so I always, you know, I grew up we didn't have a lot of money. So we always, back then it was cheaper to eat well than it was to eat processed foods. You know, like if you had, you know, lots of biscuits or like packaged treats in your home, you had more money because they cost more money. Whereas we were shopping at like farmers markets and getting like, you know, local fruit and veg. Yeah. And it was cheaper and it was better.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for it. So like I always knew like cook breakfasts, like, you know, veggies on sourdough or something with leftover mince for breakfast, and that's still pretty much my go-to. And so I was still always eating like that. I've always eaten a lot of vegetables, a lot of protein, but all I started to do was just increase my carbohydrates, just account for, so it was like the end of 2016, I started tracking my macros, and I started to make sure that I was eating enough carbohydrates around training. But all I did was increase my like more whole foods. Like I would eat a little bit more sourdough. I'd have a little bit of even just like dried fruit. I was never really a fan of eating like synthetic foods, you know, like just foods that have had too much human interference. You know, obviously everything can be processed to a degree. People get really funny about that word. Like rice is processed. I'm like, don't like, yeah, I get it. But like, you know, high human intervention with additional synthetic ingredients, I always avoided. So, you know, even say last year, competing with the team, you know, I eat fresh dates. I might have like, you know, a sourdough sandwich. I might have some dry fruit, maple syrup, honey, just really simple, basic things, and just kind of load up, maybe having more oats in the morning, but more like whole versions, rice, you know, just really simple foods. But it's always just been like vegetables, meat, like fat. I add some avocado. I cook in coconut oil or ghee, and yeah, I eat like as basic, I guess, as it can be.
Yeah.
Like
It
just
works.
really simple.
I always tell people, eat real food and you'll be
just
fine.
It's that simple. It's that simple. And you can just play with the ratios a little bit depending on your energy needs, depending on what you need to go on. You know, last year, especially through my feeding journey, I always made sure I had a higher percentage of my total calories as fat. Just to always account for the fact that I was nursing and make sure that I was, you know, enriching my breast milk and all those kind of things. And yeah, I did all right. Like, I did all right.
You did
worked
really well. Oh my God, you're at the top. And so, did you have any special recovery methods? Because these days everyone does sauna, ice bath, Normatec boots, biohacking. Like it's so much. Like I feel like some people spend more time recovering than actually training. Did you have any of that in your career?
Look, I've done a little bit of everything, but I haven't done anything wild. I always believe like the most valuable things are warming up properly and cooling down properly. That's the best recovery protocol and prehab that you can ever do, is make sure that your body's primed before you move, and then make sure that you bring it back down to a steady state. Don't eat inflammatory foods. That's probably the number one recovery thing, is like try not to eat inflammatory things. It's going to exacerbate it.
Yeah.
I had a sauna for a while, but I like that more on like a holistic side, like from a holistic point of view rather than performance. I like a massage gun because I can get to things that I couldn't normally, or like roll out. But yeah, stretching, moving, slow. I guess I've always kind of focused more on like rest as the main thing. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had any crazy protocol. I use like Normatec boots now.
Yeah.
I definitely used them in the last couple of years of my career and I love them. But I use them now just because I'll get up in the morning and I'll put them on, and I just really like that extra. Like if I'm sitting at a desk for hours, I find that it's just that kind of little extra blood flow. I go out and sit in the sunshine for half an hour in the morning. But yeah, nothing fancy. I think I'm very, very simple. I always say I'm the home brand athlete. I do everything simple as nature kind of set it out. It was already there for us. We just kind of overcomplicated a lot of things.
Yeah, we did. It is true. Yeah, that's great to hear. And so when you were pregnant, did anything surprise you in regards to the way you felt physically, or was your pregnancy really smooth? I saw videos of you on the air bike while you were pregnant. I know that you still did like a CrossFit style training throughout the whole pregnancy. Is that right?
Yeah. With my daughter, I had a super smooth pregnancy. Everything was fine. I followed the basic, smart rules of like, not doing kind of crazy things, more for like intra-abdominal pressure and all of that kind of stuff. But, and I didn't overexert myself, always made sure I could sort of hold a conversation when I would work out. And that was very relative to me. So like maybe what I could do looked a little bit more intense, but yet my heart rate was still pretty steady and I could still converse maybe more than some other people. I was super strong when I was pregnant with my daughter. And it's funny because I'm like, she's so strong. And I'm like, I feel like she just gave me this extra surge. So I was super strong. I loved lifting, tempo lifting. I'd just go really slow and just breathe, but I was crazy strong. So that was really fun and everything was fine. I trained all the way up, and then I think it was maybe just over a week before I gave birth to her. I walked into the gym one day and I picked up a pair of kettlebells and I just went, I'm done. I don't want to move anymore. And I just walked slowly and just settled. And it was like my body just kind of told me that last week it was time to get ready. And I just was super steady, and then she was good. And then my son was totally different. I had like kind of a mild sort of complication at the start and was advised to rest. That was really hard because I was like, I just believe in movement. So I rested on most things, but I still walked a lot. Yeah. And but I definitely didn't do anything as crazy, and just sort of lifted more dumbbells and did more basic things with him. So yeah, two different experiences, but both felt somewhat great. Like I always moved and always felt better moving, way less ailments. But I always still moved for health. I never ever once had any expectation or any ego about what I could or couldn't do when I was pregnant, because for one, I'd been a professional athlete for a long time. So I'm like, I don't have anything to prove. I'm like, all I'm doing right now is being pregnant. Like I just want to feel good and healthy, and I want that to pass through to my baby, and that's all that matters. So that was always my focus.
That's great. And then after you gave birth, the first and the second time, how long afterwards did you return to training? And was there anything that you did differently?
No, I would start my breath work, like say almost immediately. So like within maybe 48 hours of birth, I would start doing my breathwork rehabilitation. And that's just really easy and basic little, 5 or 10 minutes on the floor, and just slowly build up from there. And then I always worked on reactivating. So I'd go maybe a week later, I would just start with something like glute bridges, or just something really simple just to start turning those muscles back on really, really gently while I would breathe. I would do that for a couple of weeks, and then usually somewhere around, the 6 to 8 week mark, I would start moving a little bit more, but with no intensity. My goal was always to learn to breathe first, and just steadily build back up and make sure that everything was on. Obviously, hormones have not left the body yet, so everything's still very relaxed, still establishing breastfeeding, still getting up all through the night, a lot of systemic stress. So I just always kept things really, really steady. I would say it's probably the best I've ever felt in my life moving was postpartum, because everything was so intentional. And just really breath and movement quality focused with nothing else. And, you know, I wouldn't put shoes on. I just move really light stuff and flowy. And then, yeah, I would just take longer and longer. I would say with my daughter, so first pregnancy, it was about 3 months before I did an actual workout. Everything was in individual parts, just gradually building up. And then at 3 months, I started doing workouts. At 4 months, we had the CrossFit Games open. So I was doing that once a week, but it was like the only hard thing I did in the week because I was like, I'm not ready to do lots of hard things.
So you did CrossFit Games 4 months after you gave birth?
So it was the open, so that first qualifiers stage, it was like one workout per week for 5 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was doing that, which was hard because, you know, I still had a new baby and I hadn't done a lot of workouts yet. There were a lot of movements that would come up that I still hadn't even introduced yet.
Yeah.
But then I waited longer with my son because I could. He was born at a different time and everything like that too. So, I definitely wait months, and then heavy lifting is months again after that. But I just followed it by feel, right? Like you can kind of tell every birth is really different, every labor is really different, like how your pelvic floor holds up, you know, what kind of sleep you're getting. You know, like I said, I had 2 very different children. So like with my daughter, things was just so much easier. And then with my son, everything was crazy. He didn't sleep and everything was wild. So I just followed my body's lead and just gradually introduced it. You just got to strip the ego and just slowly build it back up, especially when you're establishing breastfeeding, right? Because any sudden peak in stress can can cause a decrease in breast milk. Whereas if you're just steadily stressing the system and adjusting as you go at a really nice steady pace, and everything seemed to hold okay. And I mean, I fed my daughter for 2.5 years, and my son is still feeding at 2 and 2 months or something like that. So
wow, go you. That's amazing. Well, no one can accuse you of not being healthy because this is incredible. This is really good testament to your health. Question about the training. So did you, or have you ever had any coach helping you after the pregnancy on how to get back to training, or did you just program everything by yourself?
So with my first pregnancy, I was working with a coach, Nick Fowler, and he was amazing. He was just one of the best humans ever. And he helped me. He definitely didn't have to, but he helped me through those, like at the games leading up to it. And he had kids himself. He knew about it. He's got a wife. He had women in his life. And he said, like, I just want to help you and support you through that. And so he wrote a lot of the stuff for me postpartum and through pregnancy and postpartum. With pregnancy, it was always very like, take it or leave it. It's here, but do what feels right for you type of thing. And same with postpartum. And then for my second one, I just did it myself. And I'd already done it before. I was really familiar. I remember what worked before. But yeah, he was really, really good and so knowledgeable and kind of broke things down, into just a really nice steady flow. So I didn't have to think about it that first time around too much, which was really helpful.
Yeah, that's great. And so I saw you last year at the CrossFit Games in Brisbane, the Torian Games, Torian Pro. Have you competed since, or are you still a CrossFitter, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I haven't competed since. I didn't know what I was going to do after my son, because he was at that Torian Pro. I think he was about like 8 months old or something. And then May, June, July. Maybe 7 months old. And then I competed in the teams. My hubby kind of convinced me to go teams and have a little bit of fun, and it was so fun. And then I kind of was like, I shifted my mindset. Like I definitely closed off that chapter of, trying to be great. That's just not where I'm at in life now. I want to focus on my business and my family, and my business is my family, like that's what keeps my family going and thriving and allows us to do what we do. So I was like, I can't keep putting myself entirely into this, because you know what sport's like, right? It's like one injury and you're done, or it's lots of hours of training. I didn't have that in me anymore. I'd already reduced it. Like I was already doing, 5 hours, or like, most people are doing 5 hours and I'm doing an hour and a half. So I'd already kind of got it right down. And then now, to be honest, it's been the most odd but fun, free-flowing year of just trying to figure out what I like. I still don't think I know what I want. I keep saying I don't know what I want. Like I'll do like all endurance 1 week, and then I'll do some heavy lifting for a couple of weeks, and then bodybuilding and all over the place. But I don't like discount anything. I just think I really needed to just step away and let myself just move without the pressure of having to be good at anything, and just shift my energy somewhere else.
Yeah.
But and just do what kind of feels like is right in front of me. But I don't know what that looks like long term. I'm always a CrossFitter at heart for sure, but like I don't think that ever changes. I still love CrossFit. I still love the methodology, but I personally just really needed a break because it had been, 2011 I started till 2024. It's like a long time of doing a lot of training, a lot of big compounding movements, and I just wanted to give my body and my brain and my soul just a little bit of a break and just let it flow without telling it what to do all the time.
Yeah, I get it. Well, when you were at your highest peak, CrossFit was also at its highest peak. It was like the biggest hype, and like everyone was doing CrossFit. The CrossFit, like the games in Wollongong were like the craziest event. Like people would like change the menus in their cafes just to suit the CrossFitters. You remember? There's like random cafes would just have like a completely different menu just for the
paleo menu.
Yeah, the paleo menu just for the weekend of CrossFit Games. So it was like a biggest hype, and then now it seems like Hyrox is becoming the hype. What do you think about Hyrox? Do you think it's a actually healthy progression or just another extreme gimmick, or like what do you think about it?
Look, I think a couple of things. The first thing is, look, as someone who believes in movement and like for health in general, I think if someone has something that's going to encourage them to move, then I don't care what it is. Like, go do something. Everyone needs to do something, and everyone has a different reason for doing different things. I think it's a smart business model on their behalf. I'll say that it's a smart business model. I always look in this is how I always think with my clients too, is I always kind of think about root causes, right? Like if you look at illness, you look at a root cause. If I look at something and I think this is one event, it's one thing. It does only a handful of movements on repeat in one pattern over and over and over again. That's all you do. And I mean, I don't fully believe in that. That's why I love CrossFit. I believe in diversity. It's the same as food. You don't just eat the same food every single day. Diversity, you get an abundance of nutrients, same with probiotics, same with anything. And so I would look at the root cause and be like, why would someone just chase a trend of fitness? Why do you only want that thing? And it goes for CrossFit the same or Hyrox or whatever. And if you just genuinely want to experience all the things and you just go, cool, people are doing this thing and I want to give it a try, go for it. But I personally think anything that is attached to any kind of health that is a trend is a dangerous place to play. Like, I think that you're putting yourself on the line and attaching yourself to something that is temporary. You know what I mean? Like, if it's a trend, the synonym to that should be temporary. That's what a trend is, like that's what it means. So, and I think that fitness should be fun and diverse and forever. Yeah. So that's, do I have a desire to do it? Not at all. No, not even.
Because a lot of CrossFitters do Hyrox and they do well. Did you know?
Yeah, like I think what happens too is a lot of people come from CrossFit and maybe they overtrained. A lot of people in CrossFit overtrained. They did too much. There was a really fine line. Like when I first started competing, I was training for an hour a day, and it wasn't until 2017 that I started training any more than an hour a day, 5 days a week. That was it. And then it got more and more and more and more. And people got really burnt out. They got overloaded with big lifts, big compounding things all the time. Yeah. And I think after a while, then they see something like this and they've been doing something for so long, they go see Hyrox and they go, oh, it's like a little bit gentler on the body. There's not like big heavy snatches or anything. Yeah. Oh, I can run more. And so they go, I'll just go try something different. Like someone who loves sport always wants to try different things. I want to try the different sports. Yeah. But yeah, I think... cool, give it a try. I don't think it's a sport. It's an event. It's a race. It's one thing. So I think if that's all you were doing, then I personally think that you'd be very deficient in a lot of other areas. I believe in a lot of strength training for one. I think that would be really important. But yeah, that's kind of how I...
CrossFitters are all-around athletes because you have to have the agility, the skills, like the handstand walks. Like, I could do Hyrox today. I would not do well, but I could actually physically do it. I could not do CrossFit because I can't do handstand walk. I can't do muscle up. I can't lift as heavy deadlift. So, yeah, it's definitely...
Yeah, that's what my husband and I say is the barrier to entry is so low with Hyrox. Yeah. So, and you know what? It is with CrossFit too. But the problem is that CrossFit has these really high skill, really heavy, amazing things. And it's designed to be scaled so that you get the stimulus. The focus was always on the stimulus, not on the movement. You can get the same stimulus doing a banded pull-up as somebody doing a muscle-up if that's what your level is at. However, when it comes to sport, ego comes into play. And so we go, I can't do that because I want to be able to do the top. Whereas what Hyrox has done is gone, everyone can do a sled, everyone can run, everyone can do a wall ball, what else is it, ski erg, I don't know, and burpees. Like no one, like my nana could do that. Yeah. So the barrier to entry is so low and people go, yeah, I could do that. But yeah, so it's just, I guess, which is great if people feel comfortable, go do it. But also people should feel comfortable to go do anything. Like I was always screaming this from the rooftops, like everyone can do CrossFit. Like you just have to go focus on yourself, like forget what the pros are doing. But CrossFit really blurred the line between the professional sport and then the people in the affiliates. And that's what made it really hard, is that your average person felt like they had to do what we were doing, and you don't. Like, you don't have to be as good as one of the best, football players to play football. You can still go and play with your mates if you want.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I love that. I love the CrossFit community. It's such a great community. It was very good for our business. In the midst of a vegan wave in Bondi, we started a Chief Bar, and no one wanted to buy our products. And then we went to CrossFit Games and sold everything we had in 2 days because all CrossFitters liked healthy products. They loved meat and they were into paleo. So the CrossFit community was always good for us and we loved it. I was sad when the CrossFit Games in Wollongong kind of ended because they're still there, but it's not as big as what it used to be, right?
Yeah. It's definitely, there's obviously been a massive transition. I think there was a lot of transition in the business of CrossFit. And so that kind of flowed down a little bit and people got a little bit uncertain, but it's always there. That methodology is always there. And like I said, I will always love that. I don't think people need to do big, crazy, complex movements in CrossFit. You can always do like a more simpler version and it's great. And I still train CrossFit. I just kind of cherry pick the bits I don't feel like doing.
I love it. Okay, anyway, enough about CrossFit. I got too excited. I want to talk about your business, Heaps Good Nutrition. What is it and what inspired you to start it?
Yeah, look, like I said, I studied nutrition back out of school. It was always a passion. I always had an interest in nutrition because from a very young age, I guess my mum was always somewhat savvy. And I think this is honestly one of the biggest blessings I've had in life, is that I was aware of the power of food from a very young age. My mum got sick. She had cancer a couple of times and we turned to food. She did some research. It was very holistic. We had no chemicals in our home. We made fresh juices and made, just the quality of our food was different. Like that was what we focused on. She was seeing a naturopath instead of seeing doctors. And so that was always on my radar and always my passion. And then what was funny is I didn't go into nutrition because I qualified for the CrossFit Games and I went down that path. And then I learnt a whole bunch more things and started a totally different business and was working in another business that I didn't have a choice because we had a business partner in who decided to sell the business and I didn't have a say. And that was like my retirement. That's what I was going to do. And I was like, what do I do now? Like I had this kind of plan, like this was the business that I was going to focus on. And my husband said to me, like, you love nutrition, like, why don't you go back to that, And I wasn't ready for it when I was younger because I'd get really frustrated at people, to be honest. My patience was short and I wasn't ready to be of service to people. And I think I needed a little bit more time and experience and wisdom to be able to do that. And for us, bless him, he decided to go study nutrition as well and do it with me. He's like, we'll do it together. We'll set it up and we will do it together and you can do it and you can do what you love. And he's like, you always help people around you with nutrition just because you love it and you're always offering advice and always, I'm reading books about iron before bed, like it's just what I love. And then I was like, yeah, you know what? I am very lucky that I grew up with that knowledge and I've lived this incredibly healthy life that blessed me with getting pregnant with ease twice and being healthy and feeling good and illness free for a very long time. But a lot of people aren't blessed with that. They haven't had that experience. They don't know all of these things. And now we're in a world that's just like bombarded with so much information that people don't know where to start. And so I kind of was like, well, I've been given something and it was very normal to me. And it's crushing to watch people not be able to feel their best, and just feel shit, not be able to show up in the world and just kind of hate on themselves a little bit, like people do. And so it was kind of a combination of those two things. I needed something. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like now I'm not competing all the time. And it just sort of all aligned. And then we did it together. I said, if we're going to do a business, we're only going to do it the two of us and nobody else ever again. For a while, it's going to be just the two of us. And so, yeah, we just decided to start small. We do one-on-one nutrition coaching at the moment. We're growing into sort of like other aspects. But when you start a new business, you need to work it, right? You need to be in it. You need to feel it. You need to work with the people. You need to know what it needs, what people need before you kind of add anything else on. So that's kind of what we've been doing. And it's been awesome. It's really helpful for me to be able to stay home with my babies as well, because I can work with people online and I can help people all around the world. I'm specifically passionate about women's health just because obviously I've done it all. I believe in it. I've gone and done further qualifications in preconception, pregnancy and postpartum nutrition. And that's a huge passion of mine, again, because I knew it. It was easy for me, but it's not for everyone. And so I've loved that, helping women, on their conception journey, like have babies through pregnancy, in their postpartum. Like, it's just wild. It's so cool. And then obviously we work with all different kinds of people who are just busy and usually have gotten to a point where they don't know how to take care of themselves. They don't know what's right or wrong anymore, and they've lost themselves a little bit, and they just need someone to help get them back on track. So, our motto, our passion, our goal is to be the last nutrition coach that anyone ever needs. We want to educate people and empower them so that when they go, hey, I'm ready to leave and I can do this on my own. And it's not like a fad. It's not something that they just need to go and do something else in, a couple of months' time.
I love that. And so do you only help people with nutrition, or is it also like if they wanted a training advice or lifestyle changes, do you help with that as well?
We're definitely very lifestyle focused, definitely a lot. There's always an aspect of like counseling, like you're working with an individual with so many different things. And if you don't consider the whole entire picture, then you just can't really do the best service when it comes to nutrition, because you have to look at why they're making the choices that they make, what they have available, what are their finances like, their stress, their relationships, their relationship with themselves, like why are they driven to eat what they eat, how do they feel about themselves? There's so much to it. And so, we do a lot of that. A lot of lifestyle and nutrition all go hand in hand. We haven't done any training as such yet. I mean, like if someone's training for an event, like we have clients who train for High Rocks or, they're doing some kind of like a half marathon or whatever, then obviously we support that. But they'll do their training stuff. I know my husband, like with his clients, he's like written workouts for a couple of people just to help them get moving a little bit more, like basic workouts. Who just needed something to kind of get going on their like weight loss journey or whatever. And they love that. And I mean, I'll quietly be like, you can send me a video of this movement if you want, and I'll tell you what might have gone wrong. But we don't do like training as such. We definitely focus more on like the life picture of nutrition and your lifestyle choices and a lot more about like your environment, what's around you in your space, in your home, in your car, what do you consume through your screens or whatever.
Yeah, that's great. And so you and your husband are nutrition coaches. So tell us, what does your menu look like at home for you and your kids as well? What do they eat? Are your kids on a Heaps Good Nutrition program, or what do you do?
Yeah, look, at home, we control what we can control, but I'm also very mindful that I never want to create any kind of like disordered thinking around food. I never want to label food. So we have very big open communication with our kids about what food offers. So I'll say to my daughter, Scotty, do you know what, like we'll put collagen in her smoothie, for instance, and I'll say like, do you remember what collagen can do? And she'll be like, it's good for my gut. And, she'll like kind of rattle off, and my brain and and we talk about all these things. So we talk about food more so as like what it offers. And I'll say to her, like for instance, if she's really tired and she's had this big day, and I'll say, do you think you've had enough energy today? Do you think you've eaten enough to kind of feel good? Because we know our brain gets upset when we don't eat enough food. And then she'll say to me, Mum, I think I'm hungry. I need to have something. Like, let's go have some food. Or like, she plays a lot of sport, and I'll say like, have you had enough fuel to make sure you got energy to play your sport? And so everything's very purpose focused rather than it's good or bad. It's what does it do? If they go, so we eat like I love to cook, but depending on my own capacity and work and time, I go through phases where it's super basic. Maddie and I just cook things really simple. Again, meat, vegetables, fruit, seeds, nuts, really simple. We have minimal packets in our home, and we just keep things as fresh as possible, as much as possible. And then if they go to like a birthday party or something, we like, go for it, do whatever you want, like listen to your tummy. And if they, she always, is like she's athletic, she's on the go all the time. So she'll eat like 2 pieces of cake every time at a birthday party. And then later on she'll have this massive crash. And then, we'll just talk about it and be like, remember, we know what happens to our brain when we have some of those things. So sometimes they they taste good in our mouth, but they don't, our brain doesn't like them later. Let's go and have something else to try and like feel a little bit better, And I just try and keep that messaging consistent in the whole house. But all they know is, good real food. They drink mushroom teas and they have real food.
Love it.
And they do eat a lot of Chief bars.
I was about to ask, someone in your family eats Chief products because we send them to you. So who eats them? Is it you or the kids or your husband?
It's both, but like if we have the bars, like Scotty will take one to school sometimes, and then I'll have like her friend's mum be like, oh, my daughter told me that Scotty has his bars in her lunch. Like, can you tell me which ones are okay? Like she's like, I think about it when Scotty goes, oh, I'm going to get a protein bar. Everyone like rolls their eyes like, oh, that's that athlete's daughter who's eating protein bars.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's not what you think. Like, because people have this such association with protein as though like, oh, it's just for like gym junkies who are like on steroids. And I'm like, no, it's food. I'm like, you won't question how much sugar someone will eat, but you'll make it weird when I feed my kids protein. Like, why is that weird?
I know,
I'm like,
right?
I'm not trying to like bulk them up or anything. I'm just trying to like balance their blood sugar and, keep them level and, developing as they should. So yeah, we eat very, very simple. We all have our own thing in the morning. I'm always like leftover dinners. My husband always eats like 1 million eggs and he puts maple syrup on them and maybe some leftovers. I make pancakes for the kids, but like really holistic, like really clean, bulked out, healthy protein pancakes every morning. And then fruit, vegetables, meat, like it's that basic. We buy a lot of meat of all varieties once a month, and then we just pull out a different option each day. And I would say we eat that 3 meals a day.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I like. I'm a nutritionist, and that's what I always say to my clients. Step 1, try to eat real food for a week or a month and see what happens. It's not that hard. Like, unless you're an athlete and you have specific requirements, or unless you have something like celiac disease or Crohn's. Like, if you're like a general healthy person, I think just eating real food, it's going to make huge difference to everyone's health.
Yeah, the hard thing I think I find with people is like, it is so simple. That's the simple answer, but it's not easy because you have to change your whole way of thinking about what's in your home and how you make it. And so that's what takes the most time. But you'll find as soon as people start to, because, I always think people go, eat anti-inflammatory foods or antioxidant foods. I'm like, yeah, sure, like those are great. But you realize if you just eat real foods, that's just going to happen. You're not going to be inflamed.
Yeah.
You're going to, if you cook with good oils and you eat fresh foods in variety, you're just going to be not inflamed. Like, that's just going to happen. So like eating real foods is not going to do one thing. It's not that food equals that. It's when you eat like this, those whole packaged real foods have like 100 different things that they will tackle,
Yeah, that's great. That's a great advice. One question that I want to ask you. If you could kill one misconception or myth about women's fitness or nutrition and you could kill it forever, what would that be?
I think it's the extreme of all or nothing. So like when I think about like, say, having babies and breastfeeding or whatever, and like being pregnant and training or eating, there's this like, people are either one or the other. They go, women can do everything at that time and we're fine. We're not, we're not victims. We're not fragile. We can do everything. Or then you've got the other side that do nothing. And I think it's just this is where people go wrong. It's one side or the other. But we're always in the middle. everyone is always in the middle. There's a middle ground that goes like, no, you don't need to do everything. Honor the time that you're in. And that's the same that goes for like, you know, training and eating around your cycle. It doesn't need to be super regimented, but you should still honor where you are. And if you feel a particular way, it's okay to like slow down or push through or to adjust. It doesn't have to be like one, or you have to be low carb, you have to be high carb. Like you have to, you know, at the moment, everyone's getting told like, eat carbs, eat carbs, eat carbs. And I'm like, yeah, cool. But like, then you got the other side going, don't eat carbs, only be keto. And I'm like, you don't have to be one, especially women. We are cycling creatures, right? We cycle throughout the month. Things change week to week. We have 4 phases of our cycle. So that alone shows how much change. We also go through puberty. We might have babies. We might have postpartum, perimenopause, menopause. Like men don't have that. So to think that one way is going to be locked in and going to be the secret answer for the rest of your life is absurd.
Yeah.
Because you're going to flow in and out of different needs. And that is the single greatest thing that I think any woman can learn to do, is to flow with herself and her needs at different stages of life.
So true. Love that. I want to know, you said you're reading nutrition books in the bed every night. What is your favorite book?
Oh, I've been thinking of this. I read a lot of books. I got a Kindle when I had my son because he would sleep on me for like 3 hours at a time every day. And I've been reading so many books ever since I had him. So that was a real blessing having him. Do you know what? I think one of the best books I read that I would recommend any woman read is called Rushing Woman Syndrome by Dr. Libby Weaver. I don't know if you've read that.
It's an old book. I've read it like
it's an old
10
book.
years ago. Yeah.
Yep, it's an old book. You can get it on an audio book. I think I've read it twice. I think I've read it and I've listened to an audio book when I was doing like a running cycle for a while, and I would just listen to it. I think there's so many little golden nuggets of information there for women to just kind of like tune in. She's so eloquent and so well spoken. It's so easy to absorb, and I honestly believe that every woman should read it. So I'd say like if there was a book that I would ever recommend, I think that's a really good starting point. And plus it's got a good amount of science, I think. Like there's a little bit in there to help understand and be empowered with your own body without being too overwhelmed.
Yeah, great book. I love that one too. Okay, last question. Is there any question that no one ever asks you in any interviews or on any podcast, but you wish they did?
That I wish they did. Look,
like
I
something
think
you really want to tell people, but no one ever asks you that.
Oh gosh, I don't know if there's anything that interesting. Like, I think no, I just think the main thing is that you know, I always get asked the most common things that are related to, you know, for a very long time, and only now I get asked a little bit more. I think a lot of questions you've asked, like delving more into like, you know, pregnancy and postpartum and how I live, is something that kind of always got neglected. It was like what you do on the competition floor, how does that feel, or whatever. It's always athletic questions. Whereas like, you know, and I said this to my husband, I feel like what people see of me as an athlete is like, you know, those pictures of like the iceberg, and you only see like that tiny bit. It's just the tip at the top, and there's so much more underneath because, I'm I explore things and I fail things on purpose, and I do all of that. And I feel like I don't think there's one question I could ever answer, but I feel like there's a lot of things in the depth of, I guess, how I got to where I got to, that no one really knows. So I don't know, maybe someone, but it's probably more so like, I've been talking about a lot, it's probably more so a book worth about all of the stuff, like even you know, starting CrossFit, that kind of got through to that.
I know, I was about to suggest it. We only had 1 hour here, and I certainly couldn't ask everything I wanted to ask, but I so wanted to have you on the podcast because, you know, as I said, when you were at the peak, you know, and everyone was like, oh, all these chicks are on steroids and they're so unhealthy and so extreme. And then you had the healthy kids and everything. I was always telling everyone, see, how would she do it if she was so unhealthy? Like, I really love that you know, like paved the path and showed everyone that women can be strong and can be athletes and still can be healthy and have healthy kids, but it comes down to healthy nutrition and healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I think I don't think anyone ever knew while I was competing how natural minded I've always I actually tried to pivot into when I wanted to pick up my degree after I had my daughter. I started studying naturopathy again, and then when we started the business, I was so spread thin. My husband's like, something's got to give. He's like, we'll revisit it when the kids are older. But I don't feel like people know that I live a chemical-free, low-tox life. I don't even take a Panadol, or I don't remember the last time in my life where I took a Panadol or used anything that's, as little as possible. Like, I'm very, very, I don't know, in America, you know, they call it crunchy mum or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but I've been like that my entire life. I've been like that for as long as I could remember. So I used to laugh when people would say, oh, she's on steroids. I was like, I wouldn't even take a Panadol.
Yeah.
I'm like, I won't take a medication for anything. Like, if I had to go and get my nose operated on, and I was devastated because I was like, I'm going to have to go on antibiotics after this. I'm going to be put under general. Like, I think about any time, you know, just those kind of things, I wouldn't go on antibiotics. I'm very much that way inclined, and I live aligned with nature as much as possible in my life. And I feel like that's a part of me that people only see now, and they think that I've only done that since I've become a mum, but I've been doing that since I was 10 years old.
Yeah, that's why you're so healthy.
Yeah,
Right.
That's why I say I'm very
You need to write
lucky.
the book. You need to write the book about everything, including the CrossFit and the nutrition and everything. You should.
Yeah, start. Just need the spare time.
Another task. Easy. Well, it was so good chatting to you today. Finally, I got to ask at least half of the questions I had. Thank you so much, and I hope I see you soon on the Gold Coast.
Awesome. Thank you. It was great
Have a good
chatting.
day. Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening. Let us know in the comments below what topics interest you, and don't forget to follow us.